the quality of our life is directly proportionate to the quality of our beliefs. The size of our life is limited only by the size of our beliefs. And it usually goes back to, what do I believe about myself? What do I believe about the world? What do I believe about what's possible for me, this new career, this business? Welcome to the Holistic Career Change Podcast. Spoiler alert, we don't discuss conventional, linear, boring career change here. This is the place where we talk about finding an aligned career path that feels like an extension of who you are, where you get paid for being yourself. Forget personality quizzes, soul-crushing scrolling on job sites, and breaking your brain trying to find your why. Join me and many other career changers who've changed their career holistically by first defining who they are at their core and then using this blueprint to design a fulfilling career or business. We use the mind-body-soul approach, and we take into consideration the complexity and multidimensionality of all that you are and want to represent in the world. This is where purpose-led careers are born and built. I'm your host, Vilma Osaita. Let's go. Hi, friends. Oh my goodness, how have you been? How are you enjoying the roller coaster of the year that we've been having so far? Oh my gosh, insert laughing and crying emoji here. I feel like things have been coming in strong and very intense, and I feel like many of us get to essentially experience both sides of the spectrum. It's insanely good and also insanely confronting at some points, but that's kind of the name of the game for 2026. If you haven't listened yet, I had a podcast episode on the energy of this year and what to expect and how to prepare for it. So you can check it out if you haven't yet. Anyway, so today I decided to chat to you about one thing or the one practice that can single-handedly change the trajectory of our lives for the better. Sounds dramatic, but it's true. And what I'm referring to is our ability to review and change our beliefs, or in other words, the thoughts that we think on the regular. Now, I'm such a big fan of thought work because firstly, selfishly on a personal level, the impact that it has on my life has been nothing short of extraordinary. I don't feel like there's a single other practice that has had such an impact on me, apart from obviously energy work and manifestation, but I feel like that's kind of the other side of the coin, all right? So we work with the energy, but also we work with the software that we've been giving, which is our beliefs and our thoughts. And I've been doing this work for years. And without a fail, it's the practice that will get me out of self-doubt loops, out of fear, out of anxiety, mistrust, out of worry. And it really allows me to access states of acceptance, flow, celebration, and ease. That's where we'll always want to be, ease and surrender. Now, if you've been listening to this pod for some time, you probably know that I do have 3 episodes, not 1, not 2, but 3 episodes where I dive deep into thought work with examples, with stories, with strategies. So some of you will be like, why am I recording this new episode about thought work again? Thank you for asking. First of all, it's been coming up again, especially now because the circumstances are tough right now. Collectively speaking, in the world, any country you take, there's been a lot of change, and that will affect how we will feel and how we will relate to ourselves and to the world internally, right? So it's been coming up again, and I've been witnessing the crash and burn or self-sabotage that happens when we start skipping on this work and start really lose ourselves in the circumstances. Also, I feel like we sometimes just need to hear the same thing over and over again, but just from different angles until it sticks. Like, for example, I've been listening to law of attraction recordings, reading law of attraction books, learning about law of assumption for years, like nearly 20 years at this point. And at first, for many, many years, it was just a concept, like a theoretical concept that made sense to my brain. But for the longest time, it wasn't a lived experience. And I needed it to hear about it from all of these different angles, delivered by different teachers for it to become something that I live now. Okay. So I'm revisiting this because, the reason why so often many of us will feel stuck, like we just can't move forward or we don't know what to do. In many cases, it really goes back to us believing a lot of lies and assumptions about ourselves, about our careers, about our businesses, about our relationships, about our wealth, about our children, family, literally any area of our lives. We get stuck because we believe lies and assumptions and we do not question them. So I thought that it would be such a good time to talk about thought work again. And if you worked with me before or you're working with me right now, also don't tune out either because you're like, well, yeah, thought work, because we all need this reminder. And by recording this episode, by the way, I'm also leaving a reminder to myself because I need it too sometimes. Now, as per usual, I will say this. When we talk about stuckness, when we talk about being unhappy with our lives, that can also be a result of many other variables, right? Not just our thoughts and beliefs, but it could be nervous system dysregulation. It could be traumatic experiences and so on and so forth. But for the purpose of this episode and just sort of leaning in my experience, I can very confidently say that in spite of our current reality and circumstances, this can help us feel much better significantly. Now, thought work, I perceive thought work as mental hygiene, right? It's a practice that if you do it consistently, you won't quite notice it, but the minute you drop it, the minute you stop doing it, you'll notice that your overall mental and emotional state has shifted, usually for the worse. We may feel more doubtful, we may have more mood swings, we're just more reactive, and overall we'll feel less confident. And I will personally attest to that 1,000,000,000%. If there are periods in my life where I do not do my thought work, say maybe I'm traveling or I'm taking a break, it's, and by the way, when I say thought work, it's the exact steps that I will share with you in this episode. So when I skip this thought work, I will feel low. I feel less energetic. I don't take as much intentional action, and I just waste a lot of my energy on sort of inner conflict, inner dialogue, and doubt. And a lot of the times we won't even notice, but I can literally go back to my calendar because I block everything on my calendar and also have paper calendar. I have a lot of systems, but I can literally go back to my calendar, look at my blockers and to-do items, and I can tell you the exact weeks, the exact days when I skipped on thought work, because my calendar will look like a mess. It will look chaotic. It will look like me not completing tasks properly, me getting distracted, and so on and so forth. Right? And that energy wasted on this inner dialogue, that's precious energy. That could be directed to, for example, me creating a more fulfilling life and being of more service. So I don't know about you, but I personally would rather spend the 10-15 minutes in the morning working through my beliefs, especially when it comes to your guys' career change or business, than spending, maybe 2 hours a day questioning or doubting myself. And you may say, oh, Vilma, I don't actually spend 2 hours doubting myself. Many of us do, but we do that subconsciously. When we are not grounded, when our thoughts are not reviewed, a chunk of our daily energy, say if we have 10 energy units a day, 2 to 3 of those energy units, maybe even more, without us even realizing, will be dedicated to battling inner gremlins. It's just facts. So I don't know about you, but I personally refuse to donate my energy to gremlins. I'm just unavailable for that. And I'm not going to feed them. And if it means me taking those 15 minutes a day, usually I do this in the morning, to do this work, to do this practice, I'm more than happy to invest into that. Right? And I've had clients in the past, by the way, share that they were some of them, they would be like, oh, I'm surprised that you have gremlins, which always makes me giggle. Of course I do. I have a healthy, functioning primal brain whose job is to keep me safe, not to make me happy. So of course that it will continuously serve me fearful thoughts, doubt, and so on and so forth. I just don't engage with it But my brain will be braining. Don't get me wrong, it's always braining. And I just do the thought work and move on with my plans and dreams and aspirations. That's it. There's no way around it. Now, I will say there is one exception when thought work perhaps is redundant. Okay. And in those moments, I don't even attempt to do thought work. Okay, so if we think about our cycle as women, the cycle that we go through every month, it's usually towards the end of the luteal phase when everything will go dark. Okay, for me, it goes really dark because obviously of the hormonal change. So like progesterone that supports sleep and calms nervous system, it will drop significantly. And same with estrogen, the production is decreasing. And as you know, estrogen plays a big role in production of serotonin, the mood chemical, dopamine, which helps us with motivation and reward, and just in general emotional resilience. So in those days, the thoughts do get so irrationally horrible. We catastrophize. Like everything is black or white. I literally, in those days, I just taught myself to not believe anything I think those days. And there can be a lot of anxiety. There can be a lot of ideas that I should completely change everything. So I just expect it. I usually ignore it. I take good care of myself and I literally just don't look it in the eye. I'm like, okay, this is those days where like I'll want to shave my head and move to Alaska, but I'm just not going to engage with it, okay? Because if you try to fight or engage or negotiate with gremlins during those days, you'll always lose. Always lose. Pointless, okay? So during those days, I'll just eat some good quality chocolate and watch trash TV and be like, okay, gremlins be gremlin, but I'm just ignoring them, okay? So that's one time where I usually also tell my clients that they'll come to the sessions and they'll be like, I've been feeling low, I'm doubting everything. I'll usually know their cycle by heart at this point, just by the quality of the thoughts that they will bring to the table. So that's something to be mindful of. Another piece that I feel like I also need to emphasize when we talk about belief work, I really want to acknowledge something really important. For some of us, this work will feel harder, much harder than for the rest of us. And that's not because we are doing this thought work wrong, but because we're carrying more. Okay? Because there's real oppression that exists. There is racism, there is homophobia, there is transphobia, sexism, religious discrimination, poverty, ableism, trauma, and that's just me naming a few. But these are the structural lived experiences that will shape how safe, how resourced, and how supported we feel in the world. And many people are really on the daily navigating systems that make simply existing, just existing, minding my own business, genuinely, objectively hard. So when we experience exclusion, violence, instability, or just chronic stress, the beliefs we form in response of those circumstances will become much more protective and much more deeply rooted. And I will say at the same time, we also need to acknowledge that some of us, we're dealt with objectively easier hand because of, our background, our skin color, our gender, socioeconomic status, or just any other forms of privilege, spoken and unspoken, seen and unseen. Right? That doesn't mean we don't have belief work to do, but it may mean that the terrain that we're working with is different. And the obstacles may not be as systematic or as reinforced from literally every direction. Okay? But in spite of that, I will say that belief work is universal. We all have inherited narratives and family conditioning and cultural scripts. But for some people, those beliefs are older, more deeply rooted, and they're continuously reinforced by these external realities that unfortunately we still live in 2026. So if this work feels heavier for you, it may simply mean that you're dismantling something that was built over the years or maybe even generations of lived experience. Okay, so when I share about thought work, I really want to be mindful of that. That is going to be a very different experience for each of us. And my goal here isn't to pretend that, oppression doesn't exist, or to encourage you to just, quote unquote, positively think or spiritually bypass your way out of this structural, systematic inequality. That's really, really important to me. This work, the way that I'm sharing, like I said, is simply about gently examining what's within our control, which is the meanings that we choose to attach to our story, to our value, to our situation, while also honoring what isn't in our control. And both can be true at the same time, right? Okay. Now that we covered that, I want to share a little example with you before I walk you step by step on how I do my thought work, how I teach my clients to do thought work, and where I feel like a process that's been refined over the years that I feel like really works if you work the process, okay? So imagine you decide, for example, and work with this example with me. So imagine you decide to create and design a beautiful garden. I'm laughing because for someone who doesn't garden, I use way too many gardening examples and references. I don't know, maybe it's foreshadowing of what I'm going to do in the future. But okay, so say, for example, imagine you have some land next to your house and you decide to cultivate this beautiful garden on this land that you have. But this land has never been cultivated before. So it's all wild and unkept and beautiful. It's just basically beautiful mess out there. So when we're preparing for this process, we're not just going to sort of buy some seeds and just throw them out there on top of all of the weeds and grass and bush, whatever is out there, and wait for the garden to emerge. Because that's not how it happens, unless your goal is to have a very sort of wild and chaotic garden, right? That's not usually the process. What we're going to do, we're going to go there and we're going to focus on preparing this land before we even start, planning on what to plant and how to landscape it, right? We're going to go there, we're going to get the weeds out, we're going to, get the rocks out, we're going to aerate the soil, we're going to fertilize it, and only then, sort of if you live in the northern hemisphere, for example, when the spring comes, we will start planting then, meaning when the land is prepared, is fertile, and the conditions are right. Hey, before we continue, I want to chat with you real quick. If you're anything like most of the people in this space, you're probably someone who's drawn to so many different aspects of healing. Maybe energy work calls to you. Maybe you're interested in psychology and mindset. Maybe you're fascinated by herbalism or somatic practices. Maybe you're into intuitive development, or maybe you just love creating systems and frameworks to help others transform. Or perhaps you're someone who wondered, why can't I just pick one thing? Why am I interested in absolutely everything? So here's what I want you to hear. These interests that you have are not random. They are not a sign that you are scattered or that you are unfocused. They are breadcrumbs that are leading you to your specific medicine. And this unique combination of what lights you up, that's your signature. That's your unrepeatable, unique blend of gifts. And I've created something to help you make sense of it all. It's called the Lightworker Archetype Assessment, which is a completely free tool that will help you uncover your primary healing gifts and how you're meant to weave all of these passions together into your unique expression. It takes about 15 minutes to complete, and I've had already hundreds of lightworkers telling me that it was like finally finding the missing puzzle piece. Some laughed because it suddenly made perfect sense, and others cried because they finally felt seen for who they truly are. You'll find a link to the assessment in the show notes. And then once we plant it, we're going to come back and we're going to water what we planted. We're going to continue to get the weeds out because the weeds will compete with nutrients, with our flowers or trees or whatever. We're probably going to remove the bugs or whatever else we do to maintain the garden, right? So we're not just going to expect it all to happen by itself miraculously. Well, I guess there's an exception if you have a gardener. But the point is that someone is still continuously working. First, they will be working to prepare the soil, and then they'll look after all of the plants and flowers and trees to make sure that they can flourish and they can grow and they can bloom and they can just share the beauty, right, that they have. And in a similar fashion, we are the soil. You are the soil. I am the soil. So getting the weeds out, getting those rocks out, fertilizing the soil to make it easier for the garden to grow is our responsibility. It's my responsibility. So for example, if I want a new career, if I want a new business, if I want to meet this new goal, it's my responsibility to prepare the soil and then look after it. So in the context of this podcast, new career or new business that you're dreaming about or you're in the process of building is the land that has never been cultivated before. You've never been there before. So why do we sometimes assume that once we plant things, it will just grow, right? When I hear people say that to me all the time, but Vilma, like this feels so aligned. Why are there so many struggles? Why isn't like a smooth ride, right? Why is it not happening for me? And it's like once they set the direction of the new career, they just expect it to be all ease and flow without them needing to do any inner work. No taking out weeds, no cultivation, no watering. They just accept. That's not how it works. That's just not how new things come into being, right? So us preparing the land is essentially reviewing our current outdated, unsupportive, limiting beliefs. And then what we do, we take them one by one and decide if they serve us or they don't, right? I always say there's no right or wrong beliefs. There are beliefs that serve us or beliefs that don't serve us in terms of where we want to go, in comparison to where we want to go. If they serve us, we leave them. If they don't, we change them. Because every single belief, both conscious and unconscious, is optional. We have the agency to decide what we think on purpose, intentionally, deliberately. We have the power to decide what we believe in and what we're unavailable for. And then, just like what we would do with tending the garden, we tend to our mental hygiene. We tend to our mental soil. We continue to review and shift and cultivate new beliefs. Because I said it before and I will say it again, it's just not one and done. It's not like, oh, I did it once and now I'm going to have this perfect career, perfect business. It's an ongoing job because as we go through life, new triggers will appear. New lessons will have to be learned. So it's a continuous reviewing, continuous tending. Right? And thought work is a muscle and we have the privilege to build it. It's a privilege to be able to work with our mind and be intentional about it. That's the only aspect we really have control over, is what we choose to think and what we choose to believe in. But so many of us have given that power away or outsourced our ability to attach meanings to people and stories in ourselves. We have outsourced. We allow all the others to dictate or tell us what the truth is. I'm the only one who will decide what the truth is for me. Okay, you guys, and also every stage of your career transition will have its own challenges for a reason. So that it would teach us, it would prepare us, it would give us an opportunity to learn and grow. So we would be prepared for the next stage, because there are stages in career change. And if we let those inner weeds and gremlins grow, each phase is going to become harder and harder to overcome, to the point where we will just give up. It's just the reality of it. When we are choosing to do something different, when we're creating unconventional businesses, when we're choosing career paths that perhaps are new, unexplored, unconventional, not the status quo, we are pushing against the status quo. And our protective mechanisms will be triggered. So there will be a lot of inner content that we'll need to sort through, right? And sometimes, I will have people that will sigh and complain and be like, oh, but Vilma, I can't be bothered to do thought work all the time. And I always say, that's okay. You don't have to do consistent thought work. You really don't have to if you are content with the life that you are living right now. Because if you're content with your current circumstances, if you're okay with just being more reactive to life, not sort of creating your life on purpose, but be like, I just want to like let go and let life take me places. And that means you perhaps will be growing less and maybe you're achieving less progress just because by design, that's what it is. It's okay to skip the belief work and thought work, right? It's okay if you are someone who's just like, I just want to like let go and just go with the flow and see where life takes me. That's also an interesting strategy. Totally. Right. And by the way, this is me not making fun of it. There are so many variables that will put us in different seasons where, like I said before, our nervous system perhaps can't handle change, or our trauma response is so overwhelming, we can't even fathom embarking on self-work. There are legitimate circumstances and experiences where just surviving, just existing is a massive effort. And if we're in that season, we just focus on that, surviving and taking care of ourselves as much as possible. That's it, done. But if you are dissatisfied, if you still feel stuck, if you do want more, if you do get anxious about not living your full potential, I can guarantee for majority of you, what's in the way is your current beliefs. You looking at your life, not being happy with it, and then recreating it over and over and over again, or in the self-coaching model, we call it being stuck in this unintentional model. You're not intentionally doing, but you're observing what is, and you're creating more of it. And then we're stuck in this loop, and that's where 90%, I would say 80% is very hard to quantify. Majority of the people on this planet, they live in unintentional models. And here's a very important point. The quality of our life is directly proportionate to the quality of our beliefs. The size of our life is limited only by the size of our beliefs. And it usually goes back to, what do I believe about myself? What do I believe about the world? What do I believe about what's possible for me, this new career, this business? Because if I believe that I'm not capable, or I always mess things up, or that I'm not consistent, and I believe that the world is a really tough, dark, cold, angry place, and I believe because I've been told by many people that it's very hard to succeed and earn good money in this day and age, do you think I would even attempt to try? Hell no. Why would I? Waste of time. Why would I even try? It's very hard. I don't trust myself. I don't trust the world to support me. I'm alone in the world. And we never go against our belief systems. We are built to live in accordance with them. It's the law and design. Now, on the other hand, if I take time to investigate and change my beliefs, like, for example, I did at the beginning of my career change journey, like a lot of my clients did and still do, where I did so much thought work, when I sincerely believe that it has never, ever been easier to earn money from aligned ventures, where you being you and your authenticity is your biggest asset, not your skill set, not your experience anymore, where possibilities are literally endless and only limited to our beliefs and our ability to dream. These are some of my core beliefs right now. Can you believe how much lighter, easier, more fun, more exciting than it becomes to create this reality? To start taking inspired action from that space? It's a completely different experience. And yet both of these beliefs, or both of the people who have these opposing beliefs, we live in the exact same reality, sometimes similar circumstances, but experience a completely different results and completely different level of joy and happiness and fulfillment and meaning and abundance. We probably have very different financial reality too, even if objectively speaking, we are maybe similar in IQ and EQ, and in general, we have very similar capabilities, but it's the beliefs that will determine where we'll end up in life. Okay, so a lot of the times you'll see that yourself. You look at all those examples of millionaires and billionaires. It's not about them being smarter or more experienced than us. Okay, and that may be very triggering to hear for some of us, because that's not what we've been told, but it's about them believing it's possible. It's about them having this level of delusion. That's what will determine whether their career change or business will be successful, or whether they'll turn the business into a seven-figure unicorn. That's it. right? That now also by no means am I saying that it's easy or that we won't have to do the work, take action, and make things happen. Of course we will. But when we live as much as possible, when we cultivate the space of belief, the solutions, the creativity, the energy is much more accessible, which then means that we will have more perseverance. And perseverance is how we'll make it happen and we'll bring it home. I also know that many of you, have heard how, a lot of people will talk about this. Okay, mindset is important and that we need to choose the glass, half full, blah, 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 positive psychology, so on. And it's all true, except so often I see that in different settings is presented as one of the aspects of a fulfilling life. Right? Like one of the things that we need to look, for example, when we talk about money, right? Some people will say, well, you need to budget and you need to automate and you need to also look into your, money mindset or your relationship with money. I always say that piece, the belief piece, the relationship with something is the main thing, is the foundation. If we want to lead that meaningful, abundant, personal and professional life. That's why the very first thing that I will do with every single person that enters my space in terms of like clients or if I'm in groups, I teach them thought work. Before we even talk about new career or business, we look at their belief systems. Ask me why I do that. Because I've seen over and over and over again what happens when we skip that part. When we skip it, we're planting seeds in that unkept garden. Yeah, of course, we'll have a tulip there and some other flowers will grow. But it's not going to be that cultivated, beautiful garden because the soil is not prepped and it's not ready to sustain this new garden. So in the end, it all becomes wasted effort. We can talk all about strategy all day, every day, 24/7. I can hold strategic workshops for people to set up businesses. But if their belief is, I'm never going to earn enough money, it's going to be super hard, I'm going to have to work 24/7 to keep this business going, they're not going to have that business. Their belief system is not supporting the action. The soil is not fertile enough. The soil is not prepped to plant anything. Okay, so hopefully we're on the same page with this. I think we are. I hope that we are. So the next question I often get is how? How do I do this thought work, right? Because obviously, I jokingly always say like everyone has a process these days. Everyone has their method. Everyone has the unique way that is the only way to do thought work. I never think there's one way to do things. We need to find processes, strategies, practices that work for us. And the one that I will share with you today is not the one that I created, is the one that I learned at the beginning of my journey. And again, I will say that I do have those 3 episodes on the spot that are literally dedicated step by step to thought work. So I have already shared the how with you. But I will do like a high level overview again on how I personally do the thought work, because I know it can be at first overwhelming and confusing. And there's also resistance sometimes to look into some of the thoughts that we have. So I will share with you now how you do it, especially when so many of our beliefs are subconscious. They're so deeply rooted. They're so old. We don't even register when we think those thoughts. Okay, so I personally love to use the self-coaching model by Brooke Castillo. And like I said, I tried many different tools, strategies, systems, approaches over the last decade of doing this work. And this has remained probably my top favorite when it comes to mindset and belief work. Okay, so this is a process. Step 1, and by the way, this is not the exact process that Brooke Castillo teaches. She teaches the model. I added a lot of other things that I've noticed that work for majority of people and different kind of like experiences, backgrounds, and different minds, whether it's, neurotypical brain or neurodivergent brain. This process works for both. So step 1, this is something that a lot of the times people will skip and find thought work confusing, is before we do any work, before we run any models, before we do any investigating, we do a thought download. Because like I said, many of our beliefs are subconscious. So we don't know that we carry them, but they will affect how we're making decisions. It's unless we start with writing the stream of consciousness on, say, a given topic, or start verbally processing and re-listening to us speak, we won't even know what we believe. We will just feel stuck, but we won't know why. Now, I personally am a fan of writing things down to create that distance. I know some of you do prefer to record yourself speak and then you listen back. Both work perfectly. But I will say that, for example, I too am a verbal processor, so I need to speak to process. For my astrology lovers, I have my moon in Gemini, right? So a lot of my emotional content is intellectualized. So I will need to speak about it, communicate about it, to hear it and understand what's happening. However, even if I am a verbal processor, I still do downloads in writing because I've noticed it's so much more powerful for me to do that. So what you'll do, you'll choose a topic, right? So a lot of the times when people misunderstand what that step one is for a download, they will just journal about their day or they will journal how they feel. And then they'll be like, so what do I do about it? Some of them will journal and will actually feel worse than they did at the beginning of the process. The goal is to always feel better at the end of your thought work session. So what we'll do, we'll choose a topic. So because we're in this space, in this podcast, I would say I will choose to do, for example, for work on career change or on my day job or a business that I'm building. And then I just go off and write all and anything that comes to me when surrounding that topic, surrounding that circumstance. And there will be no editing, no filtering, no judging, no trying to look it better or worse, right? Sometimes we'll write something down and be like, oh, but I don't really believe that. Oh, but I should not be thinking that. Drop all of the editing. We don't need your inner kind of like editor coming in and trying to negotiate with what your truth is. The fact that that thought came out, that means there are parts of you that believe that. And our job is to not negotiate with them, but work with their truth. That's the truth of aspects of you, right? So for example, I will write down at the top of the page, career change, and say, what would be, I will do a thought download about career change. So back in the day, my thoughts could have been like, I don't know what I should do next. I have some ideas, but how do I choose the right one? I don't know if this career direction will earn the money that I want because I want to be filthy rich. So I don't know if this career is the right one for me. I'm afraid that I will fail and waste a lot of the time. I'm worried that people will laugh at me behind my back, especially people in my current professional setting back then, right? I was in finance and banking and management consulting. So it was a lot of ego and a lot of status attached to these careers. So I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone will like laugh at me and like we'll meet for drinks and they'll just like literally laugh at me, which is illogical. I know, but that was one of my fear, right? So I will do a thought download of these thoughts. And then I will not just leave them there. That's where people stop. Like, no. This is just the very beginning. So we have the thought download. Step 2, then we move into step 2. I will read what I wrote and I will choose several thoughts that feel the heaviest for me that day. Now, if you have plenty of time and you love thought work, go ahead and do the work on every single thought. But again, the way that I sell thought work is it shouldn't be more than 10-15 minutes a day. And if that means we only choose one belief, one thought to work on for the day, that's fabulous. That's amazing. Okay, because the better it gets, the better it gets. The more we start going through these thoughts, the easier we'll start, the better we'll start feeling. But the goal is never to find all the thoughts and all the negative beliefs and all the limiting beliefs. Like, it's impossible. Like, we will never find them all. But if you choose a good one each day, you do it 3 to 4 times a week, that's such a win. You are already ahead of the curve of majority of the people, right? So I will reread what I wrote in step 2, and I will choose 1 or 2 thoughts that feel really, really heavy for me. And you will know that's bodily reaction of you read that and you're like, ooh, that feels like a punch in my stomach. Like, that feels like a very unsupportive thought. Okay. So for example, I will reread my thought download and I will say, I don't know what I should do next. That feels like the most overwhelming thought for me because it literally keeps me paralyzed. I just don't know what to do from that space. So then I will plug that thought into the unintentional model. So my circumstance here will be career change. My thought will be, I don't know what I should do next. My feeling is, how do I feel when I think that? Confused and paralyzed. I literally feel I'm just spinning in circles. Like, I really just don't know how to get out there. There are no exits for me when I believe this thought. What does my action look like? And a reminder, I'm going to investigate and find as many actions as possible. So it will look like researching, but not taking consistent action. It will look like complaining about my current job to everyone who has ears, everyone who listens. I'll be like, oh my gosh, let me tell you, my boss is such a whatever, right? It will look like changing ideas on what I should do every week and be like, oh, I should do coaching. Oh, I should like start a business. Oh, I should do change management. Oh, I should like start like a retail company and sell soap. I don't know what it is, right? Like, by the way, you guys, I also had a lot of ideas for my career change at the beginning. Right? What else would it look like? Oh, of course, scrolling on social media and comparing my life to everyone else and refusing to not look at it, but I'll be like doom scrolling and be like, well, great, she's in Bali, like having the best life and having like location independence business, right? I'll be comparing myself. And then what else would I do? I'll promise myself that I'll take this work seriously and work on my career change in the evenings or weekends, but then the evening and the weekend comes and I'm drained from my day job. So I don't do the work. I just doom scroll and I snack and whatever else I do to cope. And my result is there's no change in my circumstances. I'm none the wiser. I'm still stuck of like, I don't know what to do next. So now if you're familiar with this model, again, if you're like, Vilma, what have you just done? This is the self-coaching model. Again, I talk about it in those 3 episodes. Go back to the episode on thought work. So when I run this unintentional model, what does this show me? If I continue unknowingly keeping this thought, cultivating this thought by thinking it over and over again until it becomes my belief about career change, I will keep on recreating the same reality of stuckness. And I will wake up 12 months from now, still in the same spot, not knowing what I should do next. And I am here, by the way, when I run an intentional model, I'm not shaming myself. I'm not judging myself. I am reviewing in a neutral, curious way what's been happening and how have I been recreating the same result. What will happen if you do this model sincerely and you really write out all the action items that you do when you believe in that? You'll notice you'll have so many aha moments of like, oh, when I keep on doing this thing that I don't like doom scrolling, I never even realized that that's my way to cope with my current reality that I don't like, or that's my way to distract from actually feeling confused and paralyzed, because we're always looking for ways to feel better, even if it's short term and even if it's detrimental to us. We want that dopamine hit. So we'll do whatever it takes. But really, when it comes down to it, is some sort of internal belief, thought that we've been thinking that is not supportive, that is not true, that does not feel good to us. And an intentional model, a lot of people want to skip this, but that's such an important piece for you to see what's been happening and have those aha moments. And then we move into step 3. I will start looking for new, believable, accessible thoughts to change the thought that is unsupportive, which is, I don't know what I should do next. Right? And some of you will tell me, well, Vilma, but that's true. I do believe that. The point is not, we're not arguing what's true or not true. What we are looking for and asking is it supportive or not supportive? Is it supporting and helping me to take intentional action or find clarity, or is it keeping me stuck? So in this case, that thought is keeping you stuck. So we're looking for new reframes and angles to install in our brain. But again, we're not looking for wishful thinking. We're looking for thoughts that I can believe today in this moment to get me out of that slump, out of that stuckness. So what I'll do, I will run a new intentional model. So my circumstance will be career change. My thought, the new thought, let me think what could be the new thought. Maybe it could be something like, okay, why don't I make a decision that I will run an experiment on the one idea that I've had for years and has been coming up over and over again. And there must be a reason why it's been coming up and why I still have it. So let me run an experiment for a month. That's my new thought. Okay. For example, for me back then would be like, okay, let me try coaching. I've been thinking about coaching. I've had like little somatic, visceral, bodily reaction when I heard about life coaching when I was like 15. I was 15 and I heard about life coaching and I'd be like, I don't know what that is, but that's exactly what I want to do. And that was when I was still at school. That was the very beginning of coaching. Literally had no idea what it is about and how you can earn money with that. But I do remember that that's something that was at the back of my mind from the very, very beginning, ever since, like, again, I was a teenager. So in this situation, the way that I would get out of like, I don't know what to do and questioning myself and changing ideas, I'll be like, okay, let me look at the ideas that have been recurring and coming over and over and over again, and let me work on them. So how do I feel when I make that decision? I feel curious. I feel open, and I think that I'm a little excited as well. I'm like, I'll finally get to explore it. My action will be, well, what I'll do, I will attend an event in this industry or whatever, I don't know, business idea that you're thinking of. I will create a sample product or service and offer it to my acquaintances. I will collect feedback. I will ask someone who does this work for a living and ask them for a coffee and an interview. By the way, all of these things I did when I was exploring coaching. Then I will give myself a month to complete this experiment, and I will evaluate at the end of the month and make an informed decision if I should take it to the next phase and pursue it next. But at least I won't feel stuck anymore because now I have data and lived experience. I've been in spaces around people who do that. I've interviewed people who do that. I really have such a better understanding of what it is about. And then from that space, I'm going to make a decision what the next step is. But at least I'm not there spinning, and eating Pringles and hoping for the best. I'm actually taking action because I changed my thought and I changed my decision. And my result will be like, I have clarity on an idea that I've been toying with for years. What a different space. So what we didn't change anything externally in our circumstances, in our reality. We just changed our thought. We made a decision, and that instantaneously changed how I feel about career change. And I just literally, in those 10 minutes that I'm doing this work, I got inspired to take a different action, right? Just like that, I shifted something that I've been stuck in for years. That's the power of thought work. Okay. And obviously that thought is not going to work for everyone. So again, a very important piece, I talk about it a lot. We need to find thoughts that work for us in the moment. The thought will work that feels good in the body, and you have no smart ass gremlins saying like, yeah, but, right? Yeah, but. So there should be no buts. Like you think that thought and there's silence in your brain because your whole system accepts that thought as true for you today in this moment. Okay, and step 3, the final step, the most important step, we don't just change it and move on. We don't just change the thought and be like, okay, done. And that's the step many people miss. We then cultivate this thought until it becomes our new MO. And some of you will quit too early. And then what will happen? We go back to our old MO, right? And then people will say thought work doesn't work. I'm like, no, you didn't practice a new thought long enough to turn it into your new operating system. We haven't properly installed this new perspective shift. That's why you went back to the old MO. But remember, you've been cultivating the old belief for years, months, I don't know, for a really long time. So of course, cultivating the new thought may take some time to create this new neural pathway, to change the neuroplasticity, right? To change the way that your brain has been thinking. It needs repetition and emotion. Emotion you'll get from feeling into that thought. Repetition is you being continuously exposed to this thought over and over and over again. So the way that I recommend cultivating new thoughts is usually recording them in your voice and re-listening, rewriting them, looking for proof around you that this is your new set point, that other people do that is possible for you, until it becomes part of your software and you don't question it anymore. That's it. 3 steps. 3 simple steps, and not just, again, journaling randomly and feeling worse than you did, not doing mindfulness meditation and trying not to think. All of these are great practices, but they don't work for this. No, we intentionally do this step-by-step practice. We do it in the way as you brush your teeth. You brush your mind and look for weeds and get them out before they take over your garden. So that your inner flowers, so that the magical inner garden can flourish. So you identify the thoughts that keep you stuck. You spend a moment investigating how it's affecting you right now so you'd really see what's been happening. And then you find alternative thoughts that feel supportive to you right now. We're not looking for positive affirmation and we are not looking to exchange. So for example, if I say career change is hard, I'm not going to go in one sitting to believe that career change is easy. That's too high for me. That's not an accessible thought for me. Career change is hard. I can only change to something that may feel a little more neutral. Career change is possible for other people. Other people have changed careers successfully. That means it's possible for me. We find a thought that at least removes that heavy negativity or heaviness from that belief. So we find alternative thought that feels supportive, and then we cultivate. We water them until they root into our very being. so simple, so effective. So few of us do it. So if there's anything that you can take away from this episode, please take this process and try it out. Try it out for several weeks. Try it out for a month and notice how differently you will feel. Notice how much more open, optimistic, and just happier you will feel. This process is just a win-win for everyone. You can take those step-by-step actions, do the thought download, run an intentional model, and then record and cultivate. I promise you, it really is that simple, but the problem is that it requires commitment, just like with any other practice. And if you resonate with this work and you want to do the thought work, but some of you still feel confused, or you want some support or hand-holding, or want more examples and want to learn this process properly, I have something for you. I have finally put together this mini course just on thought work, something that I had many people ask me to do for years, and it's super step-by-step, it's practical, and it's the exact process with mini videos, with more examples, with coaching sessions on thought work, the exact process that I teach my clients, and it's everything that you need to know, nothing more, nothing less. Plus, you get access to my own GPT AI tool that are programmed to support you with thought work, with this process, especially when it comes to finding those new empowering beliefs and thoughts. Because for some of you, it can be a very tedious and annoying process because your brain has been conditioned to think in a certain way. So when we're sitting down to find new believable supportive thoughts, a lot of the times we'll blank. We'll be like, I have literally no idea what I can believe instead of this, because that feels like such big truth for me. I've believed that for X amount of years. So with the AI, it can help you, it can offer you different thoughts and really can help you find those new alternative beliefs just creatively. I've programmed it to take you step by step through this process. So in the mini course, you get access to this tool as well. Like I said, it's a very targeted mini course. You guys, it's only $27 because I just want this work in everyone's hands. And obviously you get lifetime access to this process and can go back to it over and over again. I do myself. Like, I created this course. I still review it every now and then because, like I said at the beginning of the episode, it has the capacity to change your life. And don't just use it for work or career or business. You can use it for everything. Every time you feel stuck, unhappy, confused, and don't see the results that you want in your money, in your relationship, work, travel, whatever it is, every area of your life, like, that's applicable. So if you'd like to get access to the course, I'll add the link in the show notes. And I really hope that you gift yourself this mini gift of transforming your outlook on yourself and your future. Now, I will say also, if you were a part of Holistic Career Change group, so you already have access to the majority of this work through your portal access on Marvelous. And if you are my one-on-one client who's listening to the podcast, hey, but you don't have access to the videos, please reach out. I'll share it with you because that's the process. I either teach every single client of mine or I'll give access to this course and these modules. So again, the link is in the show notes. And even if you don't get this, even if you don't get the course, I really hope that you'll take this episode to heart. And I hope that it's a nice reminder or a perspective shift that we are our thoughts. And when we shift them, the reality will shift together with the thoughts. Wishing you a magical week. Bye. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you enjoy this content, please make sure you subscribe to this podcast and leave a quick review to help us share the message of aligned work with the world. And if you'd like to learn more about how to find and transition into your very own purpose-led career or business that feels like getting paid for being yourself, make sure you check out the episode notes below. Have a wonderful week.